What's up, guys? Got something a little bit different for you today. For our final top 10 this month, celebrating 10 years here on YouTube, we're going to be counting down my top 10 buck encounters of my self-filming journey thus far. And so kicking this list off with number 10, my first year self-filming back in 2019, and so many cool things happened that year, but this particular one, 2 young bucks sparring literally at 10 yards and also smelling my footprints where I walked into the stand. And this was just cool to me, you know, like, there's so much more to deer hunting than pulling the trigger, than the harvest. And there's so many things over the 6 going into 7 years now that I've self-filmed that I've been so thrilled to share that have nothing to do really with filming a deer tag. And this is one of those things, watching a couple of young bucks spar, I mean literally at 10 yards, like almost underneath me. And then the older bucks smelling my tracks coming in, like just really cool things that you can tell the story, sure, but getting it to unfold in front of a camera, that's what makes it special. Now, all that about there being far more to deer hunting than pulling the trigger, number 9 is my very first buck harvest on camera. It might have been with the Tacticam on the scope, but it still counts. My 9-point back in December of 2019.
Right.
Now, one of the things that I regret with that video was I did a really poor job of like actually saying what happened. So I ended up taking the shot at that buck way up in the brush, about 100 yards away, and he just kind of didn't react. So I chambered another round, shot again, and eventually he went down, and I just didn't really know what happened. And in the video I just said I thought I missed, so I shot again. It turned out the shots were about that far apart, both through the lungs. And the best thing I can figure is the adrenaline of having gotten pushed out, because there were so many deer running around that day. He just kind of, I guess, didn't feel it. I don't know. But, you know, getting a buck on camera like that, that was the thing that sealed my love of self-filming. Like that moment right there, you know, getting to hold him, it was like a week into rifle season, so I already thought my chances of getting a buck, it wasn't gonna happen. Just really special, and you know, it kicked off what has been now going into 7 years of self-filming. So moving on to number 8 on this list, from this past year of 2024, I had a young buck come out in the food plot I had planted that off-season and make a scrape right out in front of me. And this is kind of that same thing, you know, as number 10 was. Just getting to watch a buck do that, and really the reason this one lands on the list was the off-season work. Decided to redo that entire plot, made a whole video on that over on the Called Outdoors channel. You know, starting from scratch and putting that in, hanging that stand there. I don't think I ever documented this, but the path that he walks out on, I went through and cut with a machete pretty much to move their trail about 10 yards over, because they were coming out like right underneath the stand, and it worked. I mean, he came out right on that trail. It's just those things, you know. Whitetail hunting can be a 365-day-a-year thing, and for me it really is. And you know, that off-season work leading to that buck doing exactly what I wanted was why he landed number 8 on the list. Now, we're gonna go straight back to 2019 and moving on to number 7. This is a little bit of a twofer. A half-rack buck encounter with still the weirdest deer noise I've ever heard in the woods. Now, I know the buck didn't make the coughing sound, or some people have commented saying it's a doe grunt. I don't know what it was doing, because it seemed like it scared itself. But that's why I wanted to put it in there. And the half rack, that was the last day of archery in 2019. We already talked about my 9-point, the buck that I would shoot that rifle season. The archery buck comes out, and I'm looking at him. I can see he's a half rack. And he's coming out, and he's basically got a choice. He's either gonna come through about like 24 yards, or he's gonna angle back and go, I think it was like 33, 34. And because he was a half rack, I said like, all right, if he comes at 24, this is an opportunity to harvest my first buck on film with a bow. If he goes 33, I'll wait. And he cuts across there, you see him, and then just watching him up on the skyline, it was so cool. This, I believe, is a buck that we'll talk about later when he still had both full sides that I encountered November 1st. But again, it's that cool thing getting to watch him up there. Some of my favorite footage, skyline, a nice buck, but obviously some other nice buck had broke that other tine off, or that other half off. Just, I love those types of moments, and whatever that doe was doing, like that was really cool. So we are going to move on to number 6 now on this list. And it's my favorite whitetail buck ever. My first encounter with a buck many of you guys will know as the Bladed 9. So it's bittersweet, obviously. I'll never forget it. It was November 3rd, 2020. It was election day. And I was doing YouTube full time by then, so I kind of was able to set my own hours. My dad was retired, and my brother was in college at the time, but I don't know, maybe they got the day off for election day. I don't know. We were all home. And we decided, let's go vote first. Let's go do our civic duty. We're going to skip hunting first thing in the morning, but it's the rut, right? It's November 3rd. Let's do that whole get out there at 9 o'clock, you know, 9 to 2, that type of window, and see what happens. And so we got home from voting. We watched trail camera cards and watched videos of the Bladed 9. And I said it out loud, I'll never forget it. I said, I'm gonna go shoot that buck. And I went and took a scent shower, got down there, and I'm setting up the camera. Like, my bow's on the ground. Is what I always did, because it's a little bit safer. It's less likely you're going to knock your bow out of the tree or whatever trying to mess with the camera. So I got the camera set up and I look, oh, there's a buck up there. Let me zoom in, and it's him. You know, he heard my footsteps. I'm very confident this is what happened. He thought I was another buck. That's why he was raking that tree. It was an aggressive posture. And then he was just coming in to whoop me, you know? And I realized what's happened. I start pulling my bow up off the ground, but unfortunately it just didn't happen fast enough. And an amazing encounter, no doubt. And I got to see him a little bit the next day too, actually with the doe. But yeah, it could have ended very different if I was just able to get set up a little faster. Maybe if it wasn't my first year, because I probably set the camera up faster now, maybe would have taken that shot. I mean, he came into like 3 yards. I don't know. It was awesome. But now to the halfway point on this list, number 5, my West Virginia archery buck, my first archery buck on film back in October of 2022. This one for me really just like put an exclamation point on everything I had worked towards in, at that point I think it was 5 years of self filming, or maybe going into my 5th year. I had always wanted to harvest an archery buck on film, and I go down there to West Virginia to hunt with Will. You guys might know him as Bottom Boy. And just, it was the second day out. First light, basically. I hear something behind me, and here comes this buck walking right down the little road there. And I try to come to full draw, and my arm catches on my harness strap. And I had to like lean out to be able to come to full draw. Like I had to move the front part of my body. I couldn't get my right arm any further. And it felt to me like I leaned 10 feet out of that tree, because he saw me immediately. Looking at the footage, I didn't move that far, but he saw me. I'm deadlocked with him, and the weirdest thing is, like 2 weeks before this hunt, I started practicing holding it full draw for longer. Like I would set a timer on my phone so that I couldn't, you know, count in my head in the last 10 seconds, start counting real fast and get the shot off. I had been practicing it, and I had to hold it full draw. I think it was 30 or 35 seconds. He starts moving. I'm able to stop him, make that shot. It's my first buck. What are the odds that shot went off right when I said that? I know it wasn't a rifle kill, but still. My first archery buck on film, and just Will's reaction, like coming up there, you know, doing the touchdown sign. Harvesting a buck like that with a good buddy, you can't beat it. Like the camaraderie of deer hunting is a real thing. That was one of my favorites and totally deserving of number 5 on the list. So on to number 4 then, and we are coming right back around to the bladed 9. It's actually the last encounter that I had with them in 2022. So walking to the stand that morning, I'm going down there in the dark. I'd actually just gotten back from a hunt in Tennessee, and I had this like gut feeling. Go sit in the old stand, the stand that he walked under that day in 2020, election day. And I don't know why, but I ignored it. I think I just told myself that like, he was the only buck that ever was in bow range of that stand. And I just said like, nah, like you're trying to, you know, relive old memories. If he didn't walk onto that stand at 7:30 that morning, and that really, like that crushed me. But I stuck it out, stayed there all day. He came back at like 4:30 and I grunted at him, and I didn't think he was gonna come in. So I turned the camera on, I was talking to him, and then he grunted and he was coming back. He came from... I thought I heard a grunt. Yep, here it comes. And I guess I should have known it. He was always that aggressive, dominant buck in the area. But that's why that lands number 4 on the list for me. Coming into a call like that, a 7.5-year-old giant buck as he was at the time, especially for Pennsylvania, just really, really cool. I wish I could have sealed the deal. He came by at about 43 yards. He actually circled back to about 27, but he was behind a tree, and that was a double set that I hung for Kyle and I to hunt in. So I would have had to be like drawing like this with a stand right here. It just wasn't gonna happen. So really cool encounter. The last time I ever saw him alive. My favorite whitetail of all time. I wish the story had ended different, but at the same time, like he really is the buck that got me addicted to chasing more mature deer. It's such a blast, you know, watching them grow over the years and targeting that buck. Never was able to punch a tag with him. I don't know what happened to him. He probably died of old age because he just had a 6th and maybe 7th sense about him, like how he just always got away. But just really cool to see him up close like that, twice in the same day, and so close to getting a shot. So now we crack the top 3, and number 3 on my list is another archery harvest from this past year, November 6th, 2024. Now there's so many cool things about this buck, and it's why it ended up at number 3 for me. Even though I didn't have the actual shot on film, I had called him in November 2nd, a few days prior, that Saturday. And I hit a rattling sequence, he shows up, I grunted at him, I think I snort wheezed at him. And he came running down the hill, but he stopped at like 50 yards. This is open hardwoods deer calling. He couldn't see the deer that was, challenging him. And I made a dumb mistake. I tried to zoom in the camera to get a look at how big he was, because I knew he was a good buck, but I couldn't tell. He caught me and scampered off. And then 4 days later, hit a rattling sequence. It's that time of year, see what happens. He comes walking in, he hits a scrape, walks right under this ladder stand that my brother and I hung the same day that I had seen him, November 2nd. And like right underneath me, crosses that ravine, goes off camera, and I was able to make that shot. But the cool thing about it, my brother did a European mount for me, and he has like 2 big knots in his skull. Like he took a tine to the nose, I think. Obviously he was a fighter. He has that busted brow that made him a 7-point, and clearly he had been fighting. That had to be a year prior because it's an old wound. There's no like obvious recent wound, but yeah, awesome buck. Getting him like that, encounter him a couple of times, really, really cool. And just the fact that he was a fighter, seeing that with a skull mount, that's what brought him up to number 3 for me. So on to number 2, and we go right back to my first year self-filming, November 1st, 2019. One of my all-time favorite encounters with the big, wide 8-point buck, chasing a doe and snort wheezing, running off a younger buck. And this goes right back to what I talked about at the beginning. There's so many things in deer hunting that make it as fun as it is, make it that addicting thing that we do, as much as we possibly can. That's one of those things. That snort wheeze, that's something that you rarely see or hear in the woods. That's the only time I've ever had it happen, at least that I can remember. But yeah, I mean, awesome buck. He was standing there broadside at like 43 yards. Wasn't a shot I was comfortable taking, especially my first year self-filming. And that, by the way, is the buck, I believe, that was the half rack that came up. I think some other buck, maybe the bladed 9, broke that other side off. And, I would encounter him later. That was earlier on the list. But really cool getting to see that vocalization, running that young buck off so close to getting a shot. And luckily it would work out in rifle season later on, harvesting that 9-point. But now we make it to number 1, and what are we talking about here? Obviously, number 1 on the list was my 180-inch buck that I actually harvested right back here on my own property, December 9th, 2021. Now there is like a full story with this buck that one day I will tell. Like there's so many little details, so many things I want to get into that probably don't fit in this video here. But I got that buck on trail camera that afternoon. It was like 3 o'clock, walked back this very path that I'm standing on now, pulled the card. It's the last video on the card. This giant buck. And I just didn't know, like to this day, and especially back then, I'm chasing 110s, 120s, a 130's a giant, and I still think that way. But you know, this huge buck that I don't even know what to think about walks past the camera, and he goes down here by the creek, and it's like 5:30 in the morning, I think. So it wasn't a cell cam. I happened to go and pull the card that day, but I walked out. I set up in like 3 different locations. Like I sat there for a while, didn't like it, moved. Sat there for a while, didn't like it, moved. Finally picked my spot, and he shows up, and the camera's to my right, so it has a pretty good view of him. But in front of me, I was so like scared of getting busted or whatever. I've got all kinds of brush and stuff. Like I can't shoot. There's no shot. I can see him on the camera. I can't really see him with my own eyes. So it's getting late. There's 7 minutes of light, 6 minutes of light, 5 minutes of light, and he's moving towards that shooting lane, but he's just not coming out. And I had pretty much accepted, like, it's okay. I've just witnessed one of the greatest whitetail bucks to ever walk the state of Pennsylvania in daylight, natural movement, doing his thing. Like, I had accepted that. And I definitely wasn't gonna move and try to get a shot, because he had seen me actually turn, because I was facing this way. I had to turn to my right to even potentially get a shot. He saw me do that. There was no way I was gonna move again and spook him. I had a few days left of the season. Maybe I can make something happen. And then he takes those final few steps. I'm able to get a shot. Dropped him in his tracks. I actually shot through the top of the heart. I really think having the camera there, having something to focus on, keep him in frame, you know, I zoom out towards the end because the light was getting low. Just something to focus on. Probably kept me from just completely losing it with that buck. But obviously, he lands at #1 on my list. I'll probably never encounter anything like that again, and that's okay. But man, to see him out there, the year that we bought this property, I was able to harvest him. He now hangs on the wall of the house that we had bought. It was unbelievable, truly. And maybe one day, those genetics that have been passed down, I'll see something like that again out here. But even if I don't, just getting to see him, like I said, I was thrilled with that. But fortunately, he came out. I was able to harvest him, punch my tag with that buck. Just incredible. But that is going to conclude our top 10. So I really appreciate you guys watching. I know this was something a little bit different. And I also really appreciate 10 great years here on YouTube. It's, I think 7 of them have been self-filming, or going into my 7th year self-filming. So not quite 10 full years as far as the self-filming thing goes, but I thought it was appropriate to round out the month with that. So on that note, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.